Hi, my name is Neil Bonga, and I'm going to be teaching you guys how to create your own translator app using the power of Python. But before we get started, you have to download a few things. The number one thing is, of course, Python. If you don't have Python installed already, links will be in the description. And you're also going to want to have your own editor for Python. Some people use Notepad, other people use actual editors that are pretty high tech, like PyCharm. I use something similar to Notepad, but it's like the official Python editor. So I use that. It's not very high tech, but I hear PyCharm is a really nice one. So you guys can use whatever you want. But before we get started, also we're going to have to do one more thing, and that is to install all of these things. Pip install, speech recognition, Google Translate, GTTS, Play Sound, PyWin32. All of these are very important so that our program works. What we're actually going to have to do is we're going to have to go to command prompt. So the way you can do that is CMD or command prompt or even pip. You could get a lot of ways to get to the command prompt. But once you're in the command prompt, you're going to have to write something along the lines of pip install. And you're going to have to install each of these. You're going to have to write this, so pip install, and then you're going to have to write it. I have them already installed, so if I install them again, it's going to give me an error. But I would take a chance to pause the video right now and install all of these. And it's only going to take like 5 minutes max. It's not going to take too long. It mostly depends on the computer speed, but it should not take too long. But now let's show you the end product of this. So to show you the end product, I'm going to share my screen and we can go to a file. So I actually converted it into an exe file. And I'm actually going to link the exe tutorial once I finish it, but I would recommend checking that out if it's already on there. So Neil's Translator. And okay. So now that we have this, we can look and we can write anything we want, honestly. So we can really translate anything we want. So what we have to write is the code above. So it shows the code and the language corresponding. This makes it easier to type. So let's look at English. It's EN. And now let's find, because these are the languages supported. And now why don't we try Greek, EL?
Speak now.
Hello, my name is Neil.
Το όνομα μου είναι Neil.
Right, so now it found out like my name and it said that in Greek. And that's really, really cool. Not to mention it also has a written translation. And now I can do whatever I want. I can go back and I can use the same languages and use a different language, and I could just press 0 and quit. Look at that. Beautiful. So now that we've seen that, we can honestly do a lot with this translator, and it really shows you the power of Python. But without further ado, let's get right into the code, because that's the really fun part. Hello and welcome. So now we're actually going to be diving into the code. It's pretty exciting. But before we dive into the code, there's a couple imports that we have to go to. So first, I'll just put them right here. So the first one is Google Translate, then speech recognition, then GTTS, then Play Sound, Win32.client, sys, which is basically system, OS, and time. Actually, we don't really need time for this tutorial. So we're actually going to delete time. So now we have all these imports. So these ones you don't have to install, but these ones you have to use pip and install them. And basically what you have to do is, if you're on a Windows, then you'll have to go to the command prompt and write pip install and then Play Sound, Google Trans, and I'll have all the links in the description for the ones that you need to install and like how to install them. But right now, let's go ahead and actually dive into this. So once you have everything imported and good, then I recommend you start coding. So the first thing we want to do is we want to have our computer to be able to speak, to say speak now and actually listen to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this SP voice. So this is the Windows version of speaking. Sorry about that. So the Windows voice will be able to speak for us, or the Mac voice. Basically, whatever voice is in your computer will be able to speak. That's what makes this so great. Now what we're going to do is we're going to write about the languages that we support. So we're going to be using Google Translate, which has a lot of languages. So I'm going to copy and paste that right here, language supported, and we're just going to have another print statement just for a line. And what this is basically going to do is it's going to show us all the languages that we can do. And the great thing about this is we can actually use almost any language in the world. It's pretty crazy. I'll show you all the languages we can use in a bit. So first, we have to initialize a couple other variables. Before we do that, we have to use recognizer, which is basically to recognize speech. R should be capital. And then we also want our translator, which is basically our Google Translator. So right here, Google Trans. So now that we've got that done, what do we do now? Well, now we actually have to show all the languages that it supports. And we're going to use the power of Google Translate and that import to do that for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to write one more print statement. I know there's a lot of print statements, but it's pretty important. So one print statement dot languages, in all caps. So now that we have all our languages, we can see how many languages we have. Let's check it out right now. So I'm going to show you the output. And I recommend you also run it just to see and to know that this is all happening well. So look at that, so many languages. But the very important thing about this is you can see these little codes. So what these codes are basically doing is so instead of typing up a whole language, because typing is boring, we can just write EN or ES for English or Spanish, and that's what makes it so special. So, and it also makes it easier on our part, or else we'd have to hard code everything else. So that's why I think that using codes is a much easier option and a much better option for both parties, coder and user. Okay, now that we've done that, we're just going to initialize a few variables. You'll see why we need it in a sec. So actually that's one, and then we're going to have a while loop so that this keeps going until you don't want it to go anymore. So we're going to initialize another one, and we're just going to have another line. Going to have inputs. So this is going to be what they're going to be speaking in. You guys will probably use English or something similar, so that's what we're going to be using. So what language will you be using? Please enter one of the codes. Okay. Now, all we have to do is we can just copy and paste this line, because now we have to see which language they want to be translating to. So now we're just going to rename the variable to output lang. What language will you be translating to? And while copy and pasting is kind of, some people think that it's lazy and sloppy, but honestly, it's very good for saving time. So I assure you that it's no big deal if you're copy and pasting. I think it's good because you're saving time. Okay, now that we've done that, we're going to have another while loop, and you'll see the reason in a little bit. So we just want to create all of these before so that we don't have to indent it a whole bunch later, because indenting is how Python runs. So if y equals 2, we know it's 1, then os.remove translate.mp3. You might be thinking, what is translate.mp3? We're going to get to that in a little bit. We just have to have all of this code before, just so that it works in the end. So you just need to hold tight for a little longer, and we'll figure it all out, and then you'll realize why we have these random variables and these random while loops too. Okay. Now to the interesting part. So what I'm going to say, now what we're going to do is I'm actually going to talk. So I'm going to say my language, and then they're going to say, okay, we got it. So to do that, we're going to use with microphone as source. So this means that, actually first we have to use a try and accept block. So try. So if you don't know what a try and accept block is, it handles errors. So basically, if there was murmuring in the background or something was going wrong when I'm hearing you talk, then what's going to happen is it's gonna go to the accept block and it's going to handle it well. So we'll show you the accept block in a little bit. So what we're going to do now, speak now. So now your computer is going to say speak now. It's pretty exciting. Just a little bit, and then we're going to test it and see if it's all working. Voice equals recognizer.listen.source. So this basically means that it's going to listen to what you're saying, and it's going to turn it into text into a variable called voice. And you can name these variables whatever you want. I just like to have pretty good names so that it's a little easier to know what we're doing. And now what we're going to do is, the voice is what you said, but it's not translated to text yet. Now we're going to translate it to text with text as a new variable, and we're going to actually use Google and its voice recognition to help us because they have an import. So that's the power of Python and the power of imports. So now that we have that, we're just going to print what they said. And the reason that I like to do this is if they had a typo or something, they can just see what they said, you know? It's a little easier for everybody. Now we have to do our accept block. Accept, because exception handling or error handling is a really good idea because it helps a lot. The reason is if you have an error and a user is using it, it won't look as sloppy and it won't actually look like an error. It'll look like an error on their part, which is a pretty good thing. So now, if you don't get it, your bot or whatever you want to call it, your computer is going to say, sorry, I couldn't get that, please try again. And now we have continue, which means it's going to go back to this while loop and keep doing it. That's why we had 2 while loops, because they still want to use the same language. So they're going to use this language. But if they want to change our language, that's why they have this. And that's why we have an X value, so that we can change our X value. We can go to the big while loop. Okay? I know it's a lot of variables and a lot of things to keep track of, but in the end, I promise you this is going to be well worth it. Okay, so why don't we just try it out right now? And then we'll go to the translation part in a little bit. Oh, there's an invalid syntax. What did we do wrong? Right, so our indentation was off. If you're following along, then your indentation was probably off too. So just give it 1 second. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys the shell. So what language will you be using? Please enter one of the codes. And the problem with this is we probably should have had a colon and a space, because now it just looks weird. But we'll solve that issue in a little bit. First, let's test. ES, so EN means English, ES means Spanish. Hello, my name is Neil. Okay, perfect. It says, hello, my name is Neil, right? And now there's a couple errors, but that's okay. What we're going to do is we're going to continue and we're going to look at the Translator app. Okay, so now that we've had that error, not error, but now it kept saying speak now. It said it again. There's a little bug, but we can solve that. But before we do that, semicolon space, so they have a little space to enter that. Okay, now that that's done, what we're actually going to do is we are going to translate it. Exciting, right? Hopefully it is to you guys. So translated is the new variable equals translator.translate text. Okay, so you see, remember the text? that they said. We're going to translate it. Language, what are we going to translate it to? So what are we going to translate it to? We're going to translate it to, I'm going to translate it to the output lang. So this is the destination. So output lang. So I put Spanish, now it's going to go to Spanish, or I could put whatever I want. So this is just the output language. I could do Hindi, I could do whatever. So print translated.text. The reason that we're doing .text is just to help it in case there's like a bug or there's like it's in words. It's not in words. It's if it's like numerical, or even if it's in like speaking form, it's not actually in text. We want to make sure it's text, and that's why. Now we're actually gonna convert the audio and save it. This is where the translate.mp3 comes. Converted _ audio.save translate.mp3. This basically means that we're saving translate mp3 as translated. Okay. Oh, we missed a couple lines. I'm sorry about that. This was wrong. Let's delete that, and let's actually go to converted _ audio equals gtts dot gtts. And it's just a little more capital. You have to get your casing completely right, capital or non-capital, because if you don't get it exact, then you're gonna get an error. So if you ever get a like a syntax error, first check your spelling, then check your capitalization. And for reference, I'll probably put a GitHub link down in the description. Lang equals output lang. So this is actually converting the audio. So we've already converted text. Now we actually have to get it to say that. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually store this in an audio file, translate.mp3, or you can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to name it this. And now this is the really cool part. Remember play sound, this import that we have? Well, we're finally going to play our sound. Play sound. Perfect. You basically have a running translator app now. I suggest you test it and run it, and it will be great. But there's a little problem with it. Now what's going to happen is it's just going to keep saying the same. It's just going to keep going, and you're just going to have to keep saying stuff until you exit. Instead, what we want to do is we want to actually give it some options. Once you're done translating, we can say, we can have an input. So enter 0 to quit. If they want to quit, we'll just put 0. Enter 1 to translate again with the same languages. And then enter 2 with different languages, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to have to do a couple of if statements. Because if you have familiarity with Java or anything like that, they have cases or switch statements, but Python doesn't actually have that, or not to my knowledge at least. So we're actually just gonna put if statements, and it's not that bad since it's only 3 statements. So why did we import system? For this exact reason, and OS was for this reason, but quit, so that now system we can actually quit the program. And then if choice equals 2. Now what we can do is x plus equals 1. So what this means is we're gonna break, so because it says to translate again with different languages. So that's number 2, to translate again with different languages. Actually, we should probably do it in order just to make it a little simpler. So we could just write if choice equals 1. And we're not going to basically do much for 1 because it's the same language, same everything. We're just going to do y plus equals 1, which means y equals y plus 1. You might be thinking, why are we doing this with Y? Because remember this os.remove translate.mp3? If we don't remove it and recreate it, what's going to happen is we're going to have two translate.mp3s and we're going to get an error because we've created it. That's the big thing about this. And what we want to do for choice 2 is we also want to do y plus equals 1. So now we basically have it. Your program is done. You have created a successful translator app. So give yourself a pat on the back because this was not easy. You really did a lot of code. So show it to your friends, show it to your family. And yeah, this is good. It's a functioning code. So if we want to test it just one last time, in case we don't have an error, let's go to the shell, English, and let's go with Spanish. Hello, my name is Neil. Pretty good, right? And now we can just test number 1, we already know, I'll do the same thing. Number 2, let's do some different languages. English, that's the only language I know. And let's try Norwegian, no. Hello, my name is Neil. Pretty good. And now we're just gonna quit with 0 and kill it. So congratulations, you have created your very own translator app. And show it to your friends, show it to your family. This is a great translator app. Give yourself a pat on the back. Good job. To clear up some confusion, the voice wasn't actually translating in the video just because of technical difficulties, because it couldn't capture the video and talk at the same time. But if you run your program, it will work and it will say the actual translation in whatever language you want. But anyways, that is all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And the first people to comment, I will respond to. I'll try to respond to every comment that I get. I might not be able to, but I guarantee you that most likely I'll be able to. So go ahead and comment, whether it's a question for me or whether it's just a note or if it's a suggestion, because I'm all open to new suggestions. And I'm going to be doing a variety of languages, not just Python. But today I did Python, and hopefully this grows to a big channel. Thank you.